Hey guys, what a day. Caught a banger of a trade today on Tesla. Everyone should have been prepared for that, right? That was on the weekly outlook. Coming into this week, right? Plan your trade, trade your plan. So solid day. Like I said, I'll post a live trading session for today. So as always, right, I'll keep this quick, clean, and easy. I'll do a little bit of a session recap, what's going on, and then the pre-market game plan for tomorrow. So everything was pretty much textbook. Everything set up, right, regarding the overall market, what we were looking for coming into today, and so on. So, we had a major gap down over the pre-market after hours over the weekend, same difference. And we filled the gap. We filled the gap, and then you can see we continued just to rally and run. So coming into today here, uh, like I was saying, we're in a news-driven market, crazy gap ups, gaps down. I mean, that's pretty much just been the story now for what, almost 2 months. So, as for SPY, right, it's like if we can get over 670, 80, I'm sorry, 675, 80, we can see a push back up and see that gap fill play. If we reject this key level, we can see a pullback here. And that's exactly what happened across the board, even here for Qs, right? The PDL was the main objective today, at least for QQQ. This is going to be key. Either we see a pop and fade, which there was a morning squeeze. We did try and reject that early. That's why we want to be patient the first 20, 30 minutes. Let that price action develop, play out. So, we did reject that PDL around market open. But coming into today, it was like, okay, either we're going to see a pop and fade, or, if buyers can reclaim the PDL, they are more so likely to push price back up towards the PDH. And that's exactly what happened today on the SPY and Qs. So let's go into the charts, starting off here with SPY. That's exactly what happened. We ended up reclaiming, getting over pre-market here, our 675.80. We held that, and we saw push back up to the top of the range here. Once we reclaimed this PDL, which was beautiful. I mean, this played out in real time. Look at that beautiful break and retest over the PDL, and you just saw that push all the way back up into the PDH. We got a break and retest over the PDH, and then you can see it was just all uphill from there. So solid day here on the SPY. Now, let's zoom out here. Let's go here on the daily. So, for me, right, this was, like I said, pre-market, I'm sorry, over this past weekend for the weekly outlook, you don't want to be in a trade in here, right? Where's the highest probability shot? Here, bottom of the range, 675.80. Now the market's so strong, who knows? I think we may see all-time highs, a new all-time high before this 2-week ceasefire deal is up. But, look at that. You ended up getting that break. You got that retest. Unfortunately, right, we didn't get that pullback at open because it already occurred during pre-market. But, I mean, textbook, guys. Break, retest. The trend is your friend. Higher time frame would never let you down, 9 times out of 10 at least. So that was just textbook coming into today. But this is where you want it to be long. That's the tightest risk for the best reward here on the SPY. So going into tomorrow, going to be a little cautious here. Of course, we are bullish bias now on the overall market. But what is SPY pushing up to now? 690.30. All you got to do is look left. That's a very strong resistance level. You don't want to jump the gun here and go long into a key supply area on the SPY, and we can see something like that. So just don't jump the gun, even if you get over the PDH, because you're approaching a key weekly resistance level. But of course, right, if we get over, 690.30, clear shots towards all-time highs. Clear shots towards all-time highs. So going into tomorrow, the key line in the sand is going to be 690.30 here on the SPY. If it's a choppy day or inside bar day, that's pretty much expected after a nice trendy day. Same thing here on the Qs. Qs has had a tough time. Right, this is a true definition of, history repeats itself. Now, coming into this week, the weekly outlook, what did I say? 613.20. That's our key level here. This is the key line in the sand. Right, we know this is our no trade zone for obvious reasons. And I said, hey, either Qs is going to do two things. We're going to reject this, right? And then we could just see it pull back into the bottom of the range, or we are going to get over this. Well, today we got over this. It's not there yet. This is the breakout. We still need that retest here on the daily. So break, retest. We got the nice displacement candle. That's solid. So this is still the key line in the sand tomorrow. It's going to be 630 and 613.20. You can see here in today's session, we had a very strong seller step in here as we got a push up into 630, right? Look at that wick there on that daily candle. So we know, I mean, all you got to do is look left. Look at all these wicks. This is a key supply area here on the daily time frame. Q's had a tough time up here before. Once we peaked above, we had a nice peak and fell. You can see here, peak and fell. We didn't make new all-time highs here. We did not make new all-time highs. So even though we got this weekly/daily double top up here over 630, it's tough up here, right? There's a lot of selling pressure up here, and today's a great example of those sellers are still sitting up here on the Qs. So the key line in the sand, really moving forward here is one of two things. You're going to get this break and retest over 630. All you have to do is look left. You can clearly see this is a strong resistance level. So don't jump the gun tomorrow. For those who like to trade over the PDH, right, you're longing into a very strong supply area here on the Qs. So be very cautious. Of course, if you do get this break, what do? Wait for proper displacement, and then you can target, really this all-time highs. So 630 is really the key line in the sand if we want to stay strong. Tomorrow, it's really 613.20 we'll see, right? Everything, there's been so much happening pre-market, after hours, so who knows where we're open, but it's not our job to know. But nevertheless, today we got the break. You're looking for that retest here. A pullback long of a 613.20 is a great shot here on Qs. That's exactly where you want to go long. I will be watching that, like I said, on the weekly outlook. This is where I want to be long here on Qs. So I will be looking for that today. We got the breakout. Now, tomorrow, or maybe the next day, whenever it sets up, if it sets up, we're looking for the retest off of 613.20. Tesla, I mean, what a dot. Plan your trade, trade your plan. Weekly outlook, I said it was fairly simple here on Tesla. I'm starting to treat 355 and 343.35 as a no trade zone, just because you can clearly see we're ranging in between those two now. But this was a beautiful trade. This was a beautiful trade. Break and retest. We got the breakout on the daily time frame this day. All we did was wait for the retest. Very simple. Break, retest. We knew we weren't looking along Tesla here because this is the only name that's really trending to the downside. Look at the daily candle today on Qs. Look at the daily candle today on SPY, and then look at Tesla, right? So Tesla today respected this 355 on the dot. Look at that, 355. Pushed up into it. Sellers kept stepping in, pushing this thing down. We are trending to the downside here on Tesla. But like I said, starting to treat this as a no trade zone just because now we're starting to do this. Today was an objective, right? We got the break this day. I was just waiting for the retest, and we got the retest, which is beautiful. So going into really tomorrow, we'll see what sets up here on Tesla. The higher probability short now is going to be under 343.35. We broke this down here. You can see that's Friday's lows, which is beautiful. Key level here just being respected, as you can see. So that's really the higher probability short. If this sets up tomorrow, even though it is a weekly level, it really depends on context. I don't really care that much, to take a short off of 355 tomorrow. Today, like I said, was an objective because it was the retest from the break we got a couple of days ago. But, anything in here tomorrow is now an inside bar day. And then, like I said, we're just starting to sit in this range. So we still bearish biased. It's still trending to the downside. But I don't really care anymore, right? Today was an objective play. So we'll read the price action tomorrow on Tesla. We already caught a really nice trade today, but I'd rather just wait for a short under 343.35 or just a deeper pullback here off of 367.35 here on Tesla. So we'll see what sets up going into tomorrow, but really just keep an eye out here on this 343.35. If you want to short, for those who, short off the PDH and PDL, you can off this PDL here on Tesla, but just know you're trading in that. Right, I'm treating this as a no trade zone now, but just know you're trading in that. As for NVIDIA, so I was looking for NVIDIA today, this pullback to 183.70. Obviously, it didn't do that, right? It ended up gapping down, but it did fill this gap today, which is solid. And then you can see here, we pushed up into the previous week's high, which is 190, and seller stepped in. But a strong day here on NVIDIA. So what are you looking for tomorrow? This thing is almost back up towards the top of the range here. Let me go here on the weekly for you guys. I would be a little cautious. I would be cautious, right? We remember this. This is a very strong supply area up here. Look at these wicks on the weekly time frame here. So you're really in the clear over 195.60. I don't even like a long, over 192.95, just because you can see there's been a lot of peak and fails, right? All you got to do is look at the chart. So I would just be very cautious on that. Now, tomorrow, right, if there is a long opportunity setup, because we've held 170, right? I broke that down on the weekly outlook. We held 170, bottom of the range. Last time we did that, actually, I'll zoom out for those who did not get that weekly outlook. I was explaining, as I always say, history likes to repeat itself. And this is why we wait for the retest. So we had a peak and fail here. What happened when we did that? We saw all-time highs. Well, peak and fail here, we got the break. When we pulled back to retest, sellers didn't step in. So what is that? A peak and fail. And what happens when we fail and reclaim a key level? We fuel that move to the upside. And that's what you can see is occurring here on NVIDIA. So now, can we see that again? Why not? We've done it here. See what I mean? So that being said, going into tomorrow, what's your game plan here? Now, this is just me, right? I necessarily would not mark out the PDH here and then look to go long over that. I think the higher probability shot is just going long over the previous week's high. Same way we have an inside bar day, right? Which means we open up in between the previous day high and the previous day low. We have an inside bar week. To me, this is just a higher probability setup if you want to go long, because now you're getting a breakout of last week's high. I'd rather take a break and retest over last week's high compared to the previous day high, just based on where NVIDIA is sitting right now. You see what I mean? I think that just makes more sense. And then you have a psychological whole number as well. So I would just look for a break and retest over 190 here, targeting, this 192. Like I said, last week's high, that's just a better setup in my opinion. To each their own, but that's really the only thing I would be looking for there on NVIDIA. AMD, just being patient here. Today was just one of those days where it filled its gap, right? It completed its objective. We ended up gapping down, which kind of set us back, but so be it. So going into tomorrow, maybe it sets up tomorrow, maybe it won't. We won't know until we know. Just waiting for the break and retest over 249.80. You can see that's clearly the better RR. That's the bigger trade. That's the better trade. Doesn't make sense to go long over the PDH. I mean, of course, if you're a quick scalper, by all means, go for it. But all you have to do is look left. This is a very strong resistance level here. Very, very strong. Look at that. Twice we pushed into that on Friday, and seller stepped in and smacked this thing in the face. So I'm just waiting for this. And like I said, explain to everyone on the weekly outlook, this is a higher probability shot. I love the confluence because if we get over that, what is that? A break and retest also over what? Last week's high, which means price is likely to continue higher. We're still in the range. We're still technically inside bar day, inside bar week. That's the better shot. So let my trade come to me. I'm looking for a long over 249.80. If we reject that, I'm just pretty much hands off here. I am bullish bias here on AMD now. We're bullish bias. We're not trending, but we are bullish bias. We broke the range, and AMD is a tricky one. Well, it's not tricky, but this thing just kind of ripped after we got over 225. We still need to retest that. We still need to retest that. And right now, if we get over this, we can see all-time highs if this market wants to continue to rip. So key line in the sand really going into tomorrow is going to be this 249.80 here on AMD. If we, have an inside bar day, I'm pretty much hands off here. Let's say we're weak pre-market and you get something under the PDL. I don't care to take that. We still need this retest here. So another long opportunity down here. Great RR if that sets up. So just be patient here and see what occurs on AMD. As for the side watches, Amazon. So Amazon, you'll see me break this down in the live trading session today after I post that. But this was right off the weekly outlook. I mean, this was beautiful. And this was also one of my close watches coming into today. Yeah, pullback long, 236.40. And what do you know? What do we do here? We got that pullback long off of 236.40. Only reason I ended up skipping this trade is, well, one, Tesla's going to pay us more on the underlying. And two, I didn't like the price action at open. I gave a lesson this weekend based on liquidity and how the reclaim entry has been the best entry. And you can see, right, you get the pullback, you get faked out here, but you understand that it's liquidity grabs, whatever the case may be. But look at that. We ended up holding. You can see after we got the reclaim entry here, or even here, you got paid very nicely into this high day. But after you got the reclaim entry here, we held. Right, we held 236.40. And then we got that push all the way up. So another beautiful thing about this trade, or this setup, I should say, because I did not take this trade, is when you look at the daily time frame, well, what do you notice? What is that? That's the break on Friday. Today was the retest. Beautiful. Break and retest on the daily time frame. The higher the time frame, the better. You got that displacement candle on the daily Friday. Today, you got that wick right off of it on the retest. Textbook. Doesn't get better than that. So that's really where I wanted to be long. I really wanted to take Amazon today. I really did. I just did not like the price action. I was going to play end of week expiration anyway, but I'm always going to go with Tesla if I have to, right? If I have a choice to pick, I'm going to go with that. But nevertheless, this is really where you want it to be long, to be honest. Right? I mean, you can look for this, but now you're kind of just taking this trade within this range. You can see this is a clear key level here, 241.55. So it's a solid shot, taking a break and retest over this into, 247.85. But ideally, like I said, this is where you want it to be long. So it's not off the table yet. You can look for another pullback long entry. If you get a long over 241.55, that's solid too. You're also over the PDH. And what else are you over? Last week's high. Right, so that's a break and retest over the previous day high, over the previous week's high, and off a key level. That's a great confluence for some upside here on Amazon. So just keep an eye out there on Amazon. Not something I primarily focus on. It's really a side watch for me. Today is set up very nicely on the higher time frame. Just you can see here on the 15-minute, wasn't really the best candles today, but then it did clean up as the day went on. So just be a little careful here on Amazon. Microsoft. So Microsoft is interesting. This is like something you have to break down on the weekly time frame. This is something that I'm looking for. Now, I'm bearish bias on this name. I don't care. I mean, it's a side watch for me. I don't care to long Microsoft until or if we break over 485. You can see that would then be a V-shaped recovery setting up on the weekly time frame. We are pulling back, but what do we do here? Look at that. We were in a channel here. We broke 392.30 on the weekly. What do we need to do? Retest. You can clearly see the bears are in control and we're in a downtrend here. So we're just pulling back to retest that. Very nice. Look at this weekly candle. We ripped that week. 381. What did we do last week? We retested that and we got to push back down. So when you zoom out, right, when in doubt, zoom out. That's still a continuation for a lower low here. This is a great pullback short here on Microsoft. So we'll see what sets up. Like I said, I don't care to go long on Microsoft until we get over 404.85. I just, I said this a while ago. I ended up just buying some shares on this long term just because I felt like, yeah, we're just pulling back. That's a great opportunity to buy. Everyone wants to buy when you're already at all-time highs. So to me, long-term portfolio, sure, but still bearish bias on this name. Looking to short. So it's just a break and retest on the weekly time frame off of 392. Break, retest. So that's what you're really looking for there on Microsoft. Now going into tomorrow, it's really this, right? 381, psychological whole number. If you can get under that, that looks good. The only reason we popped up today as strong as we did is because, well, the overall market did too. There's not really divergence on anything, I would say, besides Tesla, obviously, right? So you're just looking for a break and retest under 381 here on Microsoft. That's pretty much it, right? If that doesn't set up, I'm pretty much just hands off on this name. So key level 381 tomorrow on Microsoft, and then Apple. So Apple's just trash right now. There's really nothing on Apple. Apple's just ranging, right? We went from, I'll go on the daily, looks a little better. You know, last week, the weekly outlook was, hey, if we can break over 255.55 and turn that into support, we just have to be aware that we're going long into another no trade zone. This is just another channel in between 262 and 255. We went from ranging in here to now ranging in here. So Apple's just pretty much trash right now, but it is respecting these key levels. We didn't get a deep enough pullback, but you can see, you know, we broke over 255, and you can see the wicks here. We turned it into support, and you can see here, clear key level resistance is 262.40. So the only trade I like on Apple, if I take Apple, is just a long over 262.40. There's nothing in here, guys. There's nothing in here. Does that look like a high probability name? Does that look like a name that's trending higher or lower? No, it's trash. We went from sitting in here to now we're just sitting in here. So if you really want to sit on your hands and wait, you know, you can wait for we clear all this madness, which is over 266.95. But I do like along over 262.40 up into 266.95. So hope this helps. Let's continue to. Sorry, give me one sec. Is there anything else I'm missing on this name? I feel like there was something else. No. Oh yeah. So for my traders who like to trade off the PDH, this is why you just want to treat this as a no trade zone, because it's this, right? Does that look like a high probability environment? No. If you're looking for a quick scalp to be in that for a couple of seconds, you know, sure, take your shot going long in a 262.40, but that's what you're dealing with. There's nothing in there. That's not a high probability trade. So other than that, right, plan your trade your plan, be conservative, be safe. Markets are looking fairly good. I think last week was good. I think price action was good. Continuation, follow through was good. So at least for me, on my side of things, like I've said, you know, the main thing that I've noticed is there's been a lot of squeeze and fake outs. So the reclaim entries have really been very, very nice the past couple of weeks. That's just my observation. That's just something I've been doing. That's actually, I'll break this down for you guys as well. That was actually the trade that I took today on Tesla, which was the reclaim entry. What do I say? What do I teach you guys whenever we reclaim a key level? What does that do? Fuels that move. We know we're bearish buys here on Tesla. We ended up having some sort of news candle, gave us that big pop. We ended up rejecting, we pulled back. Market's pushing higher. You may see this as, okay, now I'm going to flip to look for longs. This is why you want to trade with the higher time frame, because you know you're not looking for longs. I ended up playing on the break of this, and we got that push all the way. We held our last third of our position all the way down to here. And that was just a reclaim entry. I understand that these are bulls, right? These are people trying to long this name, getting trapped in their position. And what do they do when they sell for a loss? They fuel that move lower. So the reclaim entries have been really nice all across the board. I just showed you on Amazon. I showed you here on Tesla. So just be mindful of that. It's the same stop loss. It's the same setup. It's the same trade, just a different type of entry. It's still the break and retest. Hope that makes sense. So I will see you guys on the next one.